You both said today that you love each other, and I believe it, but I'm trying to tell you, love is not enough for a successful marriage. There's so many other things that go in it. It's not just about you anymore.
Here is today's case.
When I'm around African-American men, he becomes like really angered and outraged.
She's resenting me for every single thing that has to do with race right now.
We went to the post office. My daughter drops her sippy cup on the floor, and I reach down and he's like, no, you were bending over to show him your ass.
You think that she is doing this on purpose in front of you?
I believe it's because she keeps her options open.
You can't change your race, and you can't change the age difference between the two of you. The two of you have to decide how you're going to communicate.
Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is the case of Thomas versus Mark.
Thank you, Juan. Deanna Thomas, you have brought your husband, Andrew Mark, to court today. The two of you have been married 2 years. You said their relationship has a lot of problems, and you want to address some of these issues in court.
Yes.
What's going on? Give me some background, please.
My husband is very selfish. He's unempathetic. He acts very old sometimes, and he's very insecure. That I don't know if it will ever change because I've did nothing to
Insecure
cause
about
him.
what?
When I'm around African-American men, he becomes like really angered and outraged. I'll give you an example. One time we went to the post office to mail something, and I already know how he is when I'm like in the presence of an African-American man. So I try not to give too much extra conversation in the post office, just so he can be comfortable. My daughter drops her sippy cup on the floor, and I reach down to pick up the sippy cup to give it to my daughter. And when we get home, I'm like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And he's like, no, you were bending over to show him your ass. And I'm like, that's the furthest thing that's on my mind right now. Like, I'm not thinking about this man at the post office or anything like that.
So she bends over at the post office, and you think that she is doing this on purpose in front of you?
I asked her about it after, and of course it's going to blow up because I can't ask any questions, no nothing.
And is it because you have issues with the other black men in the community as a whole? But
I believe it's because she keeps her options open.
You really think so?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
From the past history of her being on the social media saying, oh, I friended this guy, this guy, this guy.
Use Facebook to keep up with everybody.
Social media has complicated so many things in relationships, the way people use them and the perceptions of it, right? What do you have to say about her saying you're insecure?
Well, part of the insecurity stems too. We had an incident where she was at work, had a little bit of light snow, and I know she doesn't like to drive in the snow. She's not the best driver, she'll admit. So after work, she called and said, okay, I'm gonna stop off at my sister's house, gonna spend the night. So, okay, no problem, it's a lot closer. And I worked the next morning. So I decided, hey, leave at lunchtime. I'm gonna surprise her. She needed a new cell phone. So I'm gonna do double whammy. Go surprise her, get a cell phone for her, drop it off at the house. Knock, 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 doorbell, nothing. Her car's there, and only other person in the house is my brother-in-law. We've had issues where it's like, why is he texting you at 2 a.m.? She'll talk to him for an hour straight about medical issues that's going on with him. Like, he feels that since she's a nurse, that he's his local doctor that he can just call at any time. And
So
text.
you really think there's something going on between her and her sister's husband?
I don't feel that way now. We've hashed it out. But
Okay.
at that time, knocking on the door, hitting the doorbell, and it's like, really, no one's gonna answer the door right now.
But that's a pretty significant type of belief for someone to have, that your wife would be somehow engaged in an inappropriate relationship with her own sister's husband. Do you think that she's that type of person, or you just wouldn't put it past anyone?
Well, so over the 2-year span, it was always, like I said, these 2 a.m. text messages.
Is her sister's husband black?
Yes, that has
Do you think
nothing to
that's
do
a part
with
of the
it.
issue?
Would be anybody. I'm sure if you got a text at 2 a.m., your husband's gonna wonder what's going on with this gentleman that's
What
texting you
he's
at 2
talking
a.m.
about, it's an hour drive from our house to my job. I'm a registered nurse. I work night shifts. So with bad snow, it can take me 2 to almost 3 hours to get home with me being careful. My sister lives 15 minutes from the hospital I work at. I stopped there, spent the night, 8 a.m. in the morning after working 13 hours, and then he gets mad because I didn't come to the door. I was knocked out cold. The same day, my niece was there, my nephew was there, my sister was there that morning. She had to run out to do an errand, and she returned. But he just feels insecure. My brother-in-law, he does always ask me medical advice. He like
At 2 in the morning?
he does like
Night shifts.
Yeah, night shifts. So he'll text me at 2 a.m. Like one time he literally sent me a picture of something that was happening with him. And yeah, it was 2 a.m. Every time he calls, texts, I'll give him look, this is what he's talking about. This is what he's saying. Look at this, everything like that. Him and my sister have been together since I was 13 years old.
I understand your brother-in-law has submitted a statement to the court.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a look at that now. Andrew thinks Deanna and I are trying to be sneaky and talk on the side. The only reason I contact Deanna late at night is because I stay up late. She rarely answers and might text me back hours later. I promise you, me and Deanna are only friends. I look at her as a sister and only talk to her that way. And you've had a conversation with him.
Yes, she says that the niece and nephew were there and everyone was in the house, but conveniently no one came to the door.
Where do the issues of mistrust stem from?
Just previous relationships and insecurity, being cheated on.
And I pay for it.
Have your other relationships also had a significant age difference like this one?
Not as large of a gap. I actually used to date older women when I was younger.
So you just like an age difference in general. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if it's older or younger.
I guess so.
Cannot be your age.
He moved us to a very rural area. I'm like, no, I don't want to be out here. It's like 4 African American people in the entire city. It's away from where I work. It's away from my school. He didn't listen. He was in love with the house. All he cared about was being on the water.
She's resenting me for every single thing that has to do with race right now.
In the world right now where our cultural differences are very prominent, I don't know if we are too different to stay together.
What do you mean by too different?
Just our opinions and insight on life and things like that. Like my husband, he was a Trump supporter, and that was something I was very avidly against, and he ignored it. And now that our country is in the racial climate that it is, now he understands it. Another issue is he moved us to a very rural area, about an hour away from the major city. I told him, I'm like, no, I don't want to be out here. It's like 4 African American people in the entire city. It's away from where I work. It's away from my school. He didn't listen. He was in love with the house. All he cared about was being on the water. We had a baby. I didn't have any family support because everybody's over an hour away. And none of that mattered to him until like now he kind of gets it. But so many of our arguments stem from the fact that we are like the house, like where we're living at.
Okay, what do you have to say, sir?
Part of the problem right now is going to be, like we said, the racial climate that we're in. So I feel like as a white man...
It's affecting your marriage?
Absolutely. She's resenting me for every single thing that has to do with race right now. And I don't feel like we'll ever get past that. The house issue was the fact that we needed a bigger home for our family. And it just so happened to be that it was by the water, that something I was looking for all the time in my life. As the racial climate got worse as it is now, I have changed my beliefs. She's showed me white privilege, and I've really come a long way. I'm not supporting Trump no more. She said if I did support Trump, we would definitely end up here today. So
You obviously knew the racial differences before you got married.
Yes.
And I understand there's also an age difference. You're in your 40s, you're in your 20s. But politics, did you not discuss this before the two of you got married?
Well, she was actually a Trump supporter from the get-go as well, as he showed his candidacy.
No.
Yes.
The facts that I've seen and things of that is from a black woman in America, and it's more things besides the economy that me as a minority have to worry about. This can't be good at all. So I was never a Trump supporter, ever.
But you moved to this small town where she feels like she is one of only 4 African American citizens in this community. And has that been an issue?
Absolutely. So we were at the beach one day, and I noticed from a distance an older white woman catching our eye. So she saw my wife on the beach. So sure enough, she casually makes her way over there. And I'm like, oh, this can't be good. So they're talking for quite a while. And she definitely assumed my wife, being African American, was not from that town. And she was going to leave a mess. So she wanted to preempt that and say, oh, let me go over, talk to her, remind her, do not leave a mess at our beach.
But you're now considering moving out of this town.
Yes.
And you understand her feelings on this, and now you want to move.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
We can't put our house up for sale right now because we have a broken window that he punched out.
Why did you punch out the window?
It was one of our arguments over immigration.
So this is really heated
Yes.
in your household.
Yes.
I had bought some dishes that I wanted to put all out on the kitchen table, and she wasn't too fond of them when I first bought them. So once it popped up with this argument that we had about immigration, I just decided to take each dish and just start busting them on the kitchen floor.
Because y'all don't agree on immigration?
There was alcohol involved. He was drinking.
And as I headed upstairs to go to the bedroom, we have a little stained glass window right there, and I decided to put my fist right through the window. And as I busted it out...
How did that help that immigration argument you were presenting to your wife?
Not at all. So we still divided on immigration for sure.
I'm not saying that people have to agree on everything when you're married, but certainly one of the resolution would not be putting your fist through a window.
He made a comment about the peach cobbler I was making because it was taking too long for me to make it, and he said nobody was gonna eat it anyway.
And you got upset and did what?
I repeatedly slammed the door until it broke off the hinges.
If you'd like your case to be heard on divorce court, call us toll-free 1-877-311-2222 or log on to our website at divorcecourt.com. Missed a show? Watch full episodes on our streaming platforms, and for exclusive content, go to Apple TV.
She also has her own anger issues.
Okay, tell me about that.
So, 4th of July, she's making
What were y'all arguing about this time?
He made a comment about the peach cobbler I was making because it was taking too long for me to make it, and he said nobody was gonna eat it anyway. I took it.
Why weren't people gonna eat her peach cobbler?
Our party was starting at 4 o'clock. Dinner was gonna be at 5. Here it is, 6 o'clock, and she still has another hour to go on her peach cobbler. So now,
okay, you know you on CP time though, right?
Right.
Thank you.
So.
And I tried to explain him that, like, my
so
family,
technically she was on time,
or
even
I tried
early.
to explain that to him.
So the thing is, with her family, when we get there, everyone's gonna already be eating everything. So peach cobbler at that time wasn't gonna be an issue whether we brought one or not. It had nothing to do with her cooking.
And you got upset and did what?
I repeatedly slammed the door until it broke off the hinges because I thought he was criticizing my cooking, because cooking isn't one of my strong points. So I was awesome PMSing. So now that I look back on it, it's really silly. But at the time,
that is correct.
I felt so hurt. I was in tears and I was just angry, and I went and slammed the door off till it slammed off the hinges.
So what do the two of you have in common?
Well, we enjoy to go on trips together. Unfortunately, me being older, she throws it back in my face of, oh, you've already been here, you've already done this. And so nothing's like a real good first time together.
I think some of the things we have in common are, I'm the baby of my family and he's the baby in his family. So we both are like very youthful at times. We're both kind of immature. Or even though we're different, we bond off of. I feel like he can be very uptight at times, and I'm more like laid back and chilled. And where I'm slacking, where I'm too laid back and chilled, he's more strict, and that helps me out a lot. Another big thing is how committed and loyal we are to each other. That's like one of the strongest points in our relationship. I came from a relationship where I was constantly cheated on and things like that. And just to have somebody that is as committed to me as I am to them, I had never experienced that before. And like, even though it still upsets me that he didn't listen to me, any flaws or things that I have with him, he actively tries and change it.
So if he actively tries to change and adjust based on what you've now witnessed for yourself, why are you here?
I'm not sure if it will ever, like the age difference, like.
Can't change that.
I know. So some things I'm just here like for advice, like, is this possible? Like, I see him evolving a lot with some things just still irritate me.
You want to come into court for advice.
Yeah.
You can't change your race, and you can't change the age difference between the two of you. And what's happening is you're looking at the different life experiences, and you are questioning what you have in common based on your life experiences. Now, your mind, in your heart, things have evolved for you in terms of what is acceptable or not.
Yeah.
And you say you have evolved as well.
Absolutely.
But there are still these differences. I mean, you guys are breaking dishes over your differences in immigration. But when it comes to how it is impacting your marriage, to where you are letting it have that kind of impact on your relationship at home, the two of you have to decide how you're going to communicate. What are your commonalities? What are your core values? What are the things that you think makes someone else a great person to be married to? Because you're talking about the person who you raise your child with, you spend all this time with, you vacation with them, the person you are with the most. And it's not about bouncing just because things get inconvenient, but you have to be heard when something is significant with somebody else's perspective and experiences, because you just have them. They're different. And you have to have patience, because guess what? She doesn't have the same life experiences just by the nature. She hasn't been on this earth as long. But that's what you chose. He doesn't have the same life experiences as you, simply because by nature of who he is.
Yeah.
But that's who you chose. So when you make a decision about marriage, what are your non-negotiables? And those non-negotiables cannot be rooted in just selfishness. We're always going to have politics in this country. There are always going to be issues that we can debate. Taxes, race, immigration, all of these things. You may not ever see eye to eye on everything, but it's important to respect each other's perspectives. You can't go breaking windows and slamming doors and destroying property when things aren't working out for you. I would start with finding a new place to live as soon as possible, and then go from there. We all have a past, and see, you're older, so you have a little bit more of a past. And I hate to see this so often, that people are sabotaging their current relationships because you can't get past things that happened to you in the past. And you're making these accusations and accusing her. You at the post office. You know all 5 black people that live in this town. How's she gonna be cheating with a black man when you know all of them? And you think she's gonna take that action to do something like that right in front of you? That level of disrespect? And you stop using that against him, because I read your papers and you're saying you would leave him for a younger black man. Have you said that to him?
Yeah.
Okay, so you stop doing that. That is an issue and concern and an insecurity for him, and you're taking it and you're using it against him, and that's not right and that's not fair.
Yeah.
So stop looking at the things that you think are so wrong and so different about each other, and start looking at the reasons why you loved each other in the first place, and you build on that in the new town, in the new house, once you make the repairs. That is my judgment. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you, Deanna.
Judge Faith's verdict, I agree with it 100%. We do have problems, but they're not too big that they can't be worked out with some therapy.
The verdict was absolutely fair and right on point, so our communication lacks greatly, and different things that we have to work on. Obviously, things like she stated, we can't change our age, our race, but we can change certain things where we live, and absolutely need to change so that we can grow together.